environment and for your wallet.
Yep. Plumbing service, $20 off. AC service, $20 off. $100 off sump pump installation, right? Water heater service, you name it. AAA. Ed Kopp is a great guy, and he's got good people and good prices, and he will take care of you. So 810-226-0047. That's AAA Service Network, or go to aaaservicenetwork.com.
There.
Okay, there we go. And go to currentonline.com. You'll see all those ads, all those coupons in there. It's pretty awesome. So we're talking the tariffs, and a lot of people made a big stink. Was it yesterday or the day before? He made the chosen comment, right?
I think the day before was chosen.
The day before was chosen.
Yesterday was forcing people.
I went back and I looked at it 3 times. And to be honest, you have to see the video. And I'll explain why after. But Derek, you got track 2 ready there? Go ahead and play that.
Somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. So I'm taking on China. I'm taking on China on trade. And you know what? We're winning because we're the piggy bank. We're the one that all these countries, including the European Union, wants to rob and takes advantage of. European Union, $200 billion. China, more than $500 billion. Sorry. I was put here by people. I was put here by people to do a great job. And that's what I'm doing. And nobody's done a job like I've done. Now, would China rather wait for a little more than a year and try and get Sleepy Joe Biden to negotiate with instead of President Trump? Maybe, but I don't think so. You know why? They're losing too many jobs too fast. They had the worst year in 27 years, but I think it was actually 52 or 54 years. It's the worst year they've had in a half a century, and that's because of me. And I'm not proud of that, but you know what? They want to negotiate. And Sleepy Joe doesn't have a clue. Sleepy Joe said, oh, China's wonderful. Well, China is wonderful for China, but I'm wonderful for the USA.
Okay.
So what I was saying about before the break about China influencing our election, this is exactly what he's alluding to here. You've got Sleepy Joe. Oh, there's nothing wrong with China. Well, of course. So if you're feeling the pinch right now because of tariffs, when it comes to next year, are you going to vote for your own self-interest or for national interests? Are you going to make the kind of sacrifice that they made during World War II so we could stand tall, support the country? Or are you going to cave and let China have their way in the next election?
That's exactly right.
And that's
because
what
they
China
are influencing us by trying to force us into a recession. They think that they can stall this long enough and the tariff war long enough that they can get rid of Trump and get
they can change up an administration.
Yes.
They can change an administration. Stand tall, America.
Let's take a call from Gary in Hazel Park wants to talk about tariffs. Gary, welcome to the show.
Hey, gentlemen, thanks. You know, it's apparent to most of us that the administrative state and the deep state and Washington, the State Department has a whole different understanding of what we want them to do, which is to keep America strong and safe and secure. If you look back over the history of China, you can see that they are a communist, the Maoists, and all that stuff. They took over Tibet. They're on a war footing with Hong Kong and Taiwan right now. They're laying down their second or third keel for their aircraft carriers. They're very interested in putting airports in Greenland. That's why the president was interested in taking Greenland before the Chicons could get it. They're buying resources, mineral, all over the world. They're blackmailing countries into supporting them via lending them money, and when they cannot pay them back, they take over parts of their country. We should be in a semi-war footing with China all the time.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you mentioned that the Chinese laying the keels for those aircraft carriers, because getting back to the World War II analogy, Japan was building her Navy, and America had right now we have the smallest naval presence since prior to World War II, and we were inept at that time. And then I got to say, when I say inept, I mean having enough ships, incapable. I mean, and then we parked them all in one place and let them get blown away. Fortunately, we had the ability to build them back up when need came. Could we do that now? I'm not quite so sure.
Yeah. I don't know that our manufacturing is where it needs to be.
Beneficial to us. none of our carriers were at Pearl Harbor, and every one of, up to only 5 of the ships that were hit or sank at Pearl Harbor stayed at the bottom. We raised the rest of them back up and put them back into service.
I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, good job. Nice, Gary. Thanks for educating me.
Well, I will be checking that with Snopes, you know.
What else you got, Gary? Anything?
Hey, it's just a beautiful day out there. If you guys got time, go have a picnic with your family and enjoy the day.
We're going to try. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the call.
See you, Gary.
All right.
You can call into 734-822-1600 if you want to talk about this or anything else. But let's talk about Sleepy Joe Biden, right? Because it's not just the fact that China can change the election by holding off and trying to keep this trade war going. How about the fact that Mr. Biden may have some additional problems with China? Derek, you got track 3 ready? Let's talk about Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden and the overseas issues that Joe Biden may have. We want to talk corruption? Maybe this is it. Go ahead.
Republicans, including President Trump, are trying to hammer Biden over this. At issue was Hunter Biden profiting off his dad's work as vice president, and did Joe Biden allow it? We're talking about millions of dollars in at least 2 countries.
Mr. Vice President, Tom Yamas with ABC News. How you doing? Got a quick question for you.
It's a question we tried to ask repeatedly,
Can we ask you about Ukraine and China?
but kept getting blocked. Questions about foreign deals his son Hunter Biden pursued.
My father, Joe Biden.
In countries where Joe Biden was working as America's top diplomat. In 2014, Ukrainians, sick of corruption, revolted. Vice President Joe Biden went to Kiev to help the new government.
You have to fight the cancer of corruption.
But then, something strange happened. Just 3 weeks later, a Ukrainian natural gas company, Burisma, accused of corruption, appoints Hunter Biden, seen here in their promotional videos, to their board of directors, paying his firm more than $1 million a year. Hunter, a lawyer who had just been discharged from the Navy Reserves for testing positive for cocaine.
You know, that's what you do in the Ukraine, right? You say, "Hey,
join the Navy and do cocaine."
No, that's what Hunter Biden did. But no, that's you reach out to an American politician's son and put him on the board because hey, it's best for your company. That doesn't smack of corruption. Instead of finding some local Ukrainian who's clean and is a local boy, right.
And Hunter Biden knows nothing about the energy sector.
Exactly.
Right? And come on, let's be honest with you. This was a pure political ploy, and Biden tacitly approved it. Mm-hmm. That's simple.
Well, it's the same as Hillary using the State Department for her own personal piggy bank,
Yeah, and that's just one, right? Go with the next track, Derek. Let's talk about Biden and China.
Mm-hmm.
And Ukraine wasn't the only country where Hunter Biden's business and his father's diplomacy as vice president intersected. It also happened in China.
This video shows Chinese diplomats greeting Vice President Biden as he arrived in Beijing in December of 2013. Right by his side, his son Hunter. Less than 2 weeks later, Hunter's firm had new business, creating an investment fund in China involving the government-controlled Bank of China. With reports, they hope to raise $1.5 billion. Hunter still plays a role in the fund. His lawyer says his stake is worth about $500,000. Both Hunter and his lawyers say he never discussed any of his overseas work with his father. But even a critic of the current president and his children's business dealings says this.
He should have encouraged his son to not take these positions.
Yeah, there you go. So, Mr. Biden, why don't you answer those questions honestly?
Oh, back to the Ukraine. Remember when the prosecution was after Biden's interests, and he went to the prosecutor. He went to them and says the prosecutor has to get fired, or you guys are going to lose all this American subsidy. And he comes back and he brags at that press conference about how he got that guy fired.
Right.
That's the job of the American president, to get a guy fired for his own self-interest?
Yeah, that's that globalism, that elitism, whatever. They're not
that corruption.
It is corruption.
Yeah.
They want to push this on Trump all the time, but it's not Trump. It's you that's doing it. It's Hillary that's doing it. You mentioned at the beginning of the show about Hillary's email being given to the Chinese company.
Yeah.
Right? Not hacked. Given.
No, given, yeah.
Given.
Yeah.
So,
in all fairness, it appears that the guy that was running her server company out of the bathroom, that he was I don't know that she particularly knew it, but she knew she wasn't doing it right. And for the exact reasons it happened, a non-certified server company, unsecure. She had an unsecure server, and the guy who set it up for them, her and Bill, he was an agent. He was being paid by the Chinese government.
Right.
And then all her emails automatically get forwarded to that email address in China of that construction company.
So if we're talking the trade war, and it's real now, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's a tariff situation. And if China's going to ramp up, move for move with us on this, I always like to say, what does China buy from us? China buys stuff from us that they need.
They need pigs real soon.
And they need to sell. The whole world needs to sell to America. We got more money. We've got more disposable income. But what do we buy from China? We buy things we
T-shirts
want from China. We don't buy things we necessarily need from China.
If they don't build it, I got to say this. If the tariffs keep people from doing business in China, that business is not necessarily going to move back to the United States and get more expensive because it moved to the United States. It's going to move to South Korea. It's going to move to Taiwan.
Mexico.
It's going to, Vietnam, who now is basically
Look, I'm in the industry.
a capitalist
I
country.
See it. I see the big three moving stuff because they were planning on moving stuff to China because they wanted to sell in China, which they're not. It's very tough to sell in China still, right?
Oh, Google has no problem with doing business with China.
Of course, right? So stuff is moving. Companies are already moving this, and I think now is exactly the right time to do it. And here's another thing that people don't seem to understand. If you've been to any university in the last 20 years, you've seen a huge influx of Chinese mainland, communist Chinese in our universities.
Yeah.
You think they're just there to get – most people in China are poor. How are they affording to send their kids and paying out-of-state tuition here? They're not.
Well, there are a lot of wealthy Chinese people because they have that, if you want to call it communist capitalism. You have a bunch of wealthy insiders, and they are sending their kids here. And some of those kids are not communist agents, but you have a lot of communist PRC people that are here as students. They're getting familiar with America. They're learning about. They're learning to speak English. They're learning. They're actually getting schooled in engineering, like you're alluding to, and they're doing their postgraduate work, and then they're learning some of our best technologies and techniques in our top engineering schools, top science schools, biology and the like, and then they take it back to China.
Where they work for the Chinese government.
Exactly.
Right? So again, even if they're not a spy and trained by a spy to be part of the military or whatever, they're going to go back and work for the Chinese government.
Yeah.
So they're taking all that knowledge and technology that we've worked on here, they're taking it back to China. You don't see Americans going over to China to learn, right? They're stealing from us. That's what we've put ourselves in this position. So what if part of this trade war goes, all you Chinese student visa holders, bye-bye. Get the next plane. You're going home. We're done with you. Is that a possibility? Can we pull that off?
You'd have the
ACLU,
liberals.
The Democrats would be all over it, right? We're not going to get that. Let's take a quick call from Ken in Livonia wants to talk about China. Ken, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I just want to pass on words of caution that we try to not lump all the Chinese together. Now, I would agree that the Chinese government is crooked as can be, but now I have friends of mine who are 100% Chinese, born here, but they're all capitalists. My church in Hong Kong has all kinds of churches in Hong Kong. We have members of the church in Hong Kong. We have pastors and we have missionaries throughout mainland China teaching English to Chinese.
When we say Chinese, Ken,
to those that want to listen.
Yeah, we're not talking about the Hong Kongers and the Chinese from Taiwan. We're talking about the Chinese communists.
And
we're not lumping
obviously
them all.
everybody on the Chinese mainland is not pro-communist, obviously, but we're talking about basically the government and the people in power when we're talking about what's going on. We know that there are Christians in house churches in China who are, they're not sold out to communism.
Yeah.
They're stuck there. We understand that. But we're talking about the economic engine that's attacking the United States right now.
Let me ask you this, Ken, because you hold on a second. You brought some up. How safe are your pastors that are teaching English,